Hey, what's going on, guys? It's TrekYT here, or Nick, back at it again with another brand new video. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of interior design tips and tricks on how you can make your interior a lot better. So a lot of people focus on the outside, as you can see on the right. Now we have this house on the right that is very advanced on the outside, and then we have this house on the left. So this is really a thing all about interior design, and how even people that can build the houses on the right are not as good as, I guess, interior design, because they really are only focusing on the outside. So this is just to emphasize how people that, even though they're very skilled builders, they really don't always know how to do interior design to the fullest and to the maximum of their capability. So this video is for noobs over here and even master builders over here on interior design tips and how to make your interior just as good as your exterior. So first things off, guys, you have to really just divide up this space. This is one of the most important things, one of the things that a lot of people neglect to do, and that's where interior design really lacks if you don't go ahead and actually split up the area. So let's take a little pause for a second and just look at this. So we have this area right here. Now, this may be a little bit more of a poor representation of how you can actually divide this space up, but if you really look at it, now you are more cut off with 3 separate rooms in your square house. But also, sort of the house and little parts of the house are not square shaped. So dividing up your house is probably one of the most important things in interior design. It creates little sections that you can equally and minutely design on their own, so you can change each room into their own little sort of design features. So that's probably the most important thing in interior design that a lot of people neglect to actually execute. So when designing your house, go ahead and split up your floor plan. You don't even have to do walls like I did. You can literally walk around and place blocks on the ground, just, I guess, mapping out where your walls are going to go, and that's what you can do to, I guess, plan out a lot of things with interior design and just building in general results around planning. So plan out what rooms you're going to have, what rooms are going to go where, and then after the fact, go back and actually detail it. So we're going to take a little walkthrough of how I ended up detailing this house. So though that on the outside, again, this is still very much a square, on the inside when you take it in, it's a lot more detailed and a lot more split up. So as you can see in the previous clip, we had split up the thing. So now you can see that instead of having a big empty area, now we have a hallway this way that leads over to, I guess, a little bit of like, this could be like pretend shelving over here, I guess a little bit more shelving. We've got a detailed ceiling. The ceiling is not your flat ceiling, so that's a very important thing in Minecraft building design on the interior, is try to make things not flat. Try to make things as, I guess, depth and stuff as possible. So even with your ceiling, you can just raise it up with half slabs and stuff to create that sort of depth. And walls that are supposed to be flat, like this is a flat wall I did not detail, but this one was also a flat wall just like the rest of it, but I decided to just add a little bit of depth by adding some stair blocks, one here and one here like this, and that created yourself a little bit of depth. So as much as there is not too much space to, I guess, detail, I found my way to detail as much as possible, as in like adding a little see-through here with also having the iron bars to still create that separation thing that I was going for, but it really helped by just having, I guess, a little bit of see-through. It just added a little bit more characteristic. Over here we have some furnaces over here. We're trying to add as much, I guess, separation between things as possible. I guess that's one thing I'm really trying to emphasize, is that I really like to chop my space up. So I really try to, I guess, minimize what I have to detail in each space. So like by throwing a log here and a log here, 2 columns, I now only have to detail this one section right here instead of having to detail from here all the way over. So that's just one really important thing when it comes to Minecraft design. So let's walk through the rest of this little thing that I detail. Again, up here we're doing as much depth as possible, adding stairs and slabs, so you can do a lot of different variations that really help you to create as much detail as possible. Again, we're not going with any flat roofs, we're mixing it up all over the place. We even got ourselves a little bit of bunk beds over here. So this base, or not this base, I keep saying base, this house, though it was really small and it was square, we've really divided up the space enough to create more of a home-like feel and something that is more eye-pleasing than it was before. So let's go ahead and head over to our amazing looking house. Alright, so over on our nicer house, you can already tell that we're working with a lot less space. So this is one thing that you really need to realize when you're designing the interior of, I guess, a smaller or nicer looking house, is you're really trying to, I guess, budget more with, I guess, the space you have, because when you really work on the exterior before you do the interior, it really minimizes what you can do on the interior, because the space is, I guess, a lot smaller because you already have a fixed outside spot that you can't change now that you've already done the outside. So my opinion and my, I guess, idea for you guys to do if you ever find yourself struggling with that is plan out your interior before you even decide to build your exterior, and then design your exterior around the whole basis of what you have designed for your interior, because it just gives you, I guess, more space, I guess, is my opinion. So right now what I've been doing is I've decided that I'm not really going to divide the space up, I guess, like on one level. It's all going to be basically one room. Instead, I'm going to go with 2 levels, so that's dividing the space vertically. So with having a second level, it gives me space to put ourselves like a little bedroom up above, which in most houses in real life are normally in like a second level, even though in my house in real life, I do not have a 2-level house. So up on this second level, we're throwing in the bedroom, trying to make it, I guess, more homey. Right now I'm throwing in a lot of logs. Now the log is my column block or my structural block that really comes in key when I want to just add a little bit of dividing in a little area. So as you can see in the top right of your screen now, where those trapdoors are, I built 2 separate columns, one wide apart, which created ourselves a little gap that we can, I guess, experiment with depth inside afterwards. And then adding on our flat wall that we couldn't really do too much because I didn't want to obstruct the window, I added that like little plant life thing. That's just a really creative way of, I guess, minimizing, or I guess using up the space that's there that we can't really do too much with. So I guess the whole thing right now is still, again, dividing up our space, trying to find the best places to put blocks, but at the same time we're adding stairs and slabs in key places. Now my favorite block to use in a build is stairs and slab, more or less stairs, because it really turns, I guess, 90-degree angles into, I guess, a little bit more of, I guess, as rounded edges you can possibly get in a block game. But again, we are still, I guess, detailing at the same time as dividing up the space, so you can only do so much in this space, but I think that I have found a really good way to divide up the space. On this first level, we do have this, I guess, our little family area, I guess is what I would call it, but that's basically the house. So let's take a deeper look into that. So from the outside right now, we can tell that the exterior is really good. So when we want to head on into the inside, you can see we immediately walk in, we're greeted to, I guess, ourselves a little of like, I almost call it like a mini bar area is what I would call it. So we have this empty space right here. I threw in a picture frame, and I always use these tripwire hooks to act as almost like a nail type thing, is what I think looks really realistic to that exact thing. And then I have this random iron bar here. I don't know why I put it there, but I think it just fills up a little bit of the space, and I think it works well in, I guess, this theme of this space. And then over here, we've got this big window. So the thing with building the exterior first is that I had these windows in a really weird way. So you can only do so much with this because there's no, like, I guess, stair window block is, I guess, the thing that I would be calling it. So you can only do so much. So it does expose a little bit of this, but I think it kind of fits with the whole theme of the base because it's all on every single window is this sort of exposed glass block right here. So then we walk over here, and it's still sort of divided up. It's not divided up as much, but I think the staircase right here really adds a little bit of a dividing feature to, I guess, our little sitting area over here. Now, we can really see from this angle right here that we don't have like any space. The square footage in this build is really minimal. So dividing it up and really, I guess, cutting up little areas is what's really important. So you can almost see that right here with this ceiling being lower than all of it. It almost creates this line right here that creates, like, this is one room, over here is another one, and then the stairway right here almost creates a third room over here. And so we do now open up to a lot more of a grand vaulted ceiling, and I think I really did a good job of, I guess, creating a really good looking vaulted ceiling. And as you can see, the ceiling itself is in so many different layers. There's so many different elevation changes, which I think makes the ceiling look really cool. So again, adding as much depth as I possibly can. We added trapdoors right here when it doesn't really need to be there. Like, I could delete that and it still looks good, but I think just adding this little bit of depth is actually really key in a build that is so tiny. So we're gonna walk up these stairs right here. It's not too big of a stairway, and as you're walking up, you can see that again we were trying to fill some of this empty space by adding some iron bars on the wall. I think it looks really cool with the mechanism in the game that creates it so it doesn't have like all the edges coming off. It just attaches to that wall right there. We created ourselves a little bit of a balcony right in front of this window, and then we threw a flower in there just to add a little bit of space, and we even added some lighting on the wall. Now, in my opinion, I don't know why I put these here. I think that I would have probably done better if I maybe even took out this light right here and added a hanging light, but I decided to go with these torches instead. I think it would have been cooler if I added maybe, I want to say like an item frame with an anvil in it. I think that would have been pretty cool as well, but I went with what I went when I built it. Again, you can see right here these window frames. Since we only have so much space that we have, we can't really cover up too much of the outside of these windows, but I think that it's still because we added, I guess, texturing to the actual window. We changed up, we had multiple blocks in the window. I think it still looks really, really good. When you come up here, we do have a little bit of a railing, which is a pretty important feature when you're adding a second level that's pretty exposed. We walk up here, we do have the bed. We have one single-sided, I guess, shelf over here instead of putting it on both sides, so I think that's pretty unique. We fit ourselves in a little bit of a, I guess, plant life right here, so we really tried to fit every little crevice and tried to detail it as much as possible. Now, I could have left this completely blank, or maybe I can just throw a stair there and a stair there, but instead I just added a little bit of creative, I guess, little area right here. And then again, we do have the plant up here. We even have a picture frame all the way up here, and again, the ceiling is not flat at all. So I think that's just really important little features that I put in this space, so I guess I can cover those is dividing up the space, adding as much little detail in little crevices that you can, and turning flat walls into a little bit more of a wall with some depth, as I have done here. So that's basically the house that is a little bit harder to manage because we don't have as much space, but I still think that I was able to do a pretty great job with it. Now, to recap, guys, some of the most important tips when you're building on the interior. My first big tip that doesn't really have to do with building the interior, I guess, is just building in general. Depending on how you want to do it, I would suggest designing the interior, not really designing, but planning it out as much as possible before you go ahead and design the exterior. Now, I really love the look of this exterior, but having it so cramped on the inside does make it really, really difficult to go ahead and make a really good looking inside. So again, planning the outside, or planning the inside before planning the outside, is a very important thing. Now, covering actual interior, recapping, the very important key is dividing up the space. It's one of the most important things you can possibly do. And then once you've divided up the area, going back and detailing it afterwards is what you want to do. Instead of detailing as you go, it's a lot easier to detail if you know exactly where everything is going to go. So I guess detailing after the fact is a lot more important after you divided the space. When you're detailing, try to just, I guess, throw in creative blocks such as iron blocks, stairs, blocks that just create slight depth in your walls to turn a flat wall into just a little bit of a, I guess, wall with depth, like adding stair blocks into the wall so it's still technically flat, but it does have that little almost half block indent into the wall, which creates that little bit of depth, makes your wall a little bit more interesting to look at instead of just a plain flat wall. And again, one thing that I really think is very important about building in general is just, I guess, your block choice. So if you do texturing like I did on the walls, you can see in the background on the outside of that wall, I have the wood and I have the clay. Now those blocks contrast really, really well together, so I guess block choice is a very important thing as well when you're building on the inside and outside of builds. It's just, I guess, you can turn a flat wall into a very more interesting wall by just texturing it with multiple block choices, which all work really, really well together. So I guess that's our little last tip of today. So if you guys did enjoy this video and found it at all helpful, definitely drop that like and show your support in the comments down below. And as always, guys, I love you all. See you guys later. Peace out.